Hey, yo, what's the deal? Miss your boy Tag from Pro Wrestling Tag. You know what I mean? As of this recording right now, it is 10:33 p.m., August 21st, 2025. And this is the final video of the night. And the upload time is about between 11:30 to 11:45 p.m. And I wanted to make this video because there was an individual, and right now I'm watching the Giants game. It's preseason. Jackson Dart is our future. I'm a Giants fan. You know what I mean? The Giants, I'm a diehard Giants fan. We got Russell Wilson. You know what I mean? But we'll see what happens with, when the season progresses and such. I mean, he's going to be our starter, so I don't expect him to be a starter long term. I think he's just there to warm up the seat for Jackson Dart. But listen, if Russell Wilson is willing to, teach Jackson Dart the way how Kurt Warner taught Eli Manning, then I think we're good. And who knows? He might be a little bit. He's a lot better for what I've seen than fucking Daniel Jones. You know what I mean? But going to the video. So there was an individual who I just happened to see in my timeline, individual by the name of WrestleMafia. And he put out a very interesting video that it caught my eye. It clearly caught my eye. And the points that he made was very valid. Extremely valid in regards to why WWE wrestlers don't feel special anymore, right? And he put up some great points, some really, really, really great points, right? But I think more than likely, and it's not only WWE wrestlers, it's AEW wrestlers too, where there are a lot of wrestlers in both companies, with the exception of a few who they don't look, they don't stick out. You know what I mean? They really don't stick out. Like, I can give you some names who definitely sticks out, right? Roman Reigns, he sticks out. Who else? Who else? We're talking about people who have physiques and such, right? Randy Orton fucking sticks out. AJ Styles, he sticks out. These are people who have physiques. Braun Breaker for sure sticks out, right? And in the 90s, there were a lot of wrestlers who definitely stuck out because they had gimmicks. They had gimmicks and they also have physiques. So when you have a gimmick and a physique, right, it's easy. It's very, very easy to set yourself in the pack. Extremely easy. Look at the Attitude Era at that time, right? The Godfather, right? Val Venus, even the mid-cards, right? Val Venus, Edge, Edge and Christian, Kurt fucking Angle, right? You even had wrestlers, Kane stuck out. The Undertaker stuck out, right? You even had wrestlers who just had one name in their wrestling, in their wrestling persona, and they stuck out like a fucking sore thumb. Let's look at WCW. Sting stuck out, right? Diamond Dallas Page stuck out, right? Because they had they had gimmick and they had character. You know what I'm saying? Fucking Shawn Michaels, Diesel, Triple H when he was the blue blood. And then when he became the cerebral assassin. Now, all these guys had physiques. All of them had physiques, right? And, and they had gimmicks. Like I said, if it's not a gimmick, then it's physique. If it's not physique, then it's gimmick, right? And let's go a little bit more further. The Ruthless Aggression Era, same thing, right? Gimmick and physique. Gimmick and physique. I mean, you have Batista, you know, Brock Lesnar, still on the roster. Brock Lesnar, right? These are people who basically just stuck out like a sore thumb, you know, and let's go even more further, right? With the ruthless aggression era, right? You had Rico, you had fucking, you know, Team fucking Angle, right? You know, these are people who had physiques and who had gimmicks too, right? You know, matter of fact, I'll throw in another thing: gimmick, physique, and an athletic background. You know what I mean? Like those three. You know, what are those three basically got you? You know, they got you. You know, to a point where you are. You know, you separate yourself from the pack. You don't got that no more. You legit don't got that no more. You don't have wrestlers who, you know, with gimmicks and physiques and such. Everyone just looks the fucking same. Everyone legitimately looks the same. The closest that you had, honestly, you know, to that in terms of, you know, wrestling in today's day and age, you know, I'm like going all over the place. You know, wrestlers who had a gimmick and he made it work completely. Bray Wyatt. You know what I'm saying? Now when you look at a wrestler, and some of these wrestlers I like, but again, when you don't have wrestlers, they're not cool. Like they don't, and that's the thing with wrestlers back there. Like they were fucking cool. They were like people who, you know, who a lot of, you know, adults looked up to and such. Like, yeah, or they could sympathize with. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, you know what? I agree with this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like his look and everything. He looked like he'll fuck you up. You know, Big Papa Pump was another one, right? Now, you know, you got wrestlers on both companies that when you see them, you're like, hey, like you look like, he said, the guy WrestleMafia said how they look like, you know, people who compete in CrossFit and such. And that's true. That's true. It looked like, you know, your typical Waffle House waiters and things like that. Like, you know, these are people who like you see in video game conventions. And I like video games too. They're like CrossFit and, you know, like they just look plain and ordinary. You know what I mean? But that's the indie look though. That's the indie look that that people go for. You know what I'm saying? I also remember, you know, they was going to do this with Sanity. Remember Sanity? Remember Sanity with Eric Young, Nikki Cross, oh my goodness, and the other two motherfuckers. I forgot the other two. I know those two stuck out, like, you know, Killian Dane, and there was somebody else. Those two stuck out like a sore thumb, right? Again, like, I mean, like I said, you had a few that fell through the cracks. Like Rich Swann. Rich Swann was a fucking dancer, right? Rich Swann was a dancer, you know, so he, you know, like he could fit, but it's more like the physiques. It's the physiques that basically, you know, it's hard to really get over when you have slinky physiques. I'm sorry. I'm absolutely sorry. But there are wrestlers that I actually like. There are wrestlers that I like. But a lot of these wrestlers now, they don't look cool. They don't. They really don't. I mean, they don't. I mean, I love Jon Moxley, but Moxley, you know, see when Jon Moxley was Dean Ambrose and such, like, yeah, but it was Vince that wouldn't let him go all the way in with, you know, with his lunatic fringe gimmick. You know what I mean? And then when he got to AEW, you know, he had some sort of aura, right? But of course, in due time, like, it just wore off. You know what I'm saying? It just wore off and such. But I don't know. Like I said, physique matters in pro wrestling. It does. It really does. And if a lot of these wrestlers, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. if a lot of these wrestlers today, like the ones who you see, like, the Adam Hangman Pages, like these are people who you don't even get scared of if you fight them. Like, I'm not going to be afraid of you, if I see you like in a restaurant or at a bar or something. I'm not afraid of this motherfucker. Like, look how small he is. Like I'm supposed to take Adam Hangman Page seriously, or with how he look and such. If a lot of these guys were, had the physiques that they that you're supposed to have in pro wrestling, right? If they had them, right, they'll be bigger stars now than they are, at their current form, and they just don't look cool. They really, really don't. They don't, because there's no fucking gimmick. So when you don't have no gimmick or physique or athletic background, you're just plain, son. Like, you're just plain. Like, I don't know. Like, they just don't look, they don't look appealing. They don't look striking. Like, this is why I say gimmick is king. Gimmick is king. You know why gimmick is king? Because with gimmick, this is what people know you for, especially, if you're able to live that gimmick too. And you have a physique. You know what I mean? It's like Steve Austin. Steve Austin didn't have physique, but, he had gimmick. You know what I mean? And that gimmick actually, played into his real life. That's another thing that's missing too. That is another thing that's missing. Like, elements of your real life. Like The Rock. You know what I mean? The Rock's gimmick was basically elements of his real life. Steve Austin, elements of his real life. Goldberg, elements of his real life. You see, like, these are people who is going to captivate a crowd, right? Unfortunately, you don't got that no more in pro wrestling. Everyone just looks bland. They just look vanilla. And it's a shame, too. It's a shame, because how am I going to take someone like Ricochet seriously? Huh? How the fuck am I going to take someone like Will Ospreay seriously? It doesn't make sense. And also what the guy said, too, was, kayfabe. And I think not having kayfabe also kills wrestling today. It does. To me, it does, because, wrestling was all about, blurring the lines with realness and fakeness. And unfortunately, you don't have that anymore. So throw that in there. And, listen, I love wrestling, right? I love wrestling, but I'm going to keep it a buck with you. I think wrestling now, in terms of those aspects that I mentioned, took a big hit. It took a big hit in terms of captivating like an actual crowd and such, and it sucks. It really, really sucks. I miss when you had wrestlers who had physiques and who had height and such, because they were larger than life. You know what I mean? They were larger than life. Like, they look like motherfuckers who you would be scared of when you see them, in the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, you'd be shook to death. You don't got that no more. Unfortunately, you don't got that, and I think that's what's missing about pro wrestling, right? But anyway, guys, I'm about to be out. You know what I mean? I definitely will be making some more videos tomorrow. You know what I mean? And it's Friday tomorrow, so I'm going to definitely holler at y'all. Peace.